Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert, that's me. This video contains things that I tinker with throughout the day. For step-by-step detailed instructions of those tasks, you can click on the links in the comment section below. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. This video also has tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. So, thank you very much for watching. Kicking off the Tinker Day in Cole, Cincinnati. About to go work on Red Baron, firewall junction, heater, hoses, and valve stem seals. In the meantime, I found this laying on the ground in the driveway, so it probably fell out of one of my boxes. Little basil for the pulls on these S&V 70s. I think that one on the passenger door is missing. So I'm gonna go slide this on there, make this car look just a little bit better. Don't know if there's 2 colors or 3 colors of those things. There it is, folks. I think you could get these from a couple of places. I'll put a link in the comments to, I think I got these maybe from Swedish Car Parts. Red Baron fires right up. This heatless wonder. Put this on white so it can match the IPD gauge. Time to go do some valve stem seals, heater hoses, and junction. Let's go, boys. The smoke in action. Woo-wee. Like a James Bond movie. In that mirror. Hanging out at Andrew's place, Volvo City. Look what we got here. I towed this thing out of here with Panther a few months ago. It done made its way back to Cincinnati. Now Dan is picking up the C70 coupe. Nobody tried to buy it, so it is on its way to Michigan. Unfortunately, Dan's going to tear it apart, part it out, use parts to do some other projects he's got going on. There it is, folks. C70 being pulled by Cummins. 2500. What's up, puppy dog? How you doing, huh? How you doing? You see my phone? Getting ready to strap it up. About to hit it, folks. Volvo life. Man, Andrew suckered this guy, got a 244 out of the deal. Choo choo. C70 coupe. They got to get a green light or something. Give them the flag, man. The green flag. See, I'd have been on the highway by there she goes. About to get into some major engine work on Red Baron. You know, before you do major engine work, you should always do a compression. You don't want to be doing a bunch of work on a bad engine. Now this car is smoking, so I really don't want to do a compression test in the garage. However, man, it's be a pain in the butt getting all this stuff out of here and doing it out here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull it in the garage and do this compression test. Hopefully I don't smoke it up too bad. Look at that smoke lingering. I'm gonna do a compression test. Engine's not hot, but it's not stone cold. Pulled it in the garage. You can see the smoke lingering here. But I went on ahead and pulled the fuel pump fuse. So the car was starved of fuel. Now I'm gonna disconnect ignition, which I could do right here by this plug we hooked up here. Then I'm gonna pull this out of the way, disconnect this, pull the coil packs, pull the plugs, and do a compression test. Let me get on with this quick as I can. Very little oil in the charge pipe. Normal to have some oil in there from the PCV blow-by system. And on a boosted car, it's even worse. Go ahead and pull these coil packs. Those look like 8s. Really strange. I see some smoke coming up out of number 2. Maybe a little out of number 3. Anyway, let me go ahead and screw the compression gauge in there and fire this thing up. All right, let's go. Go check it out. Good thing is I don't have no smoke coming out the back, so I'm not smoking up the shop. 160. Good so far. Let's go check the other 4. We got a 165. Let's check 3. We got another 165. All right, number 4. Another 165. Last but not least, 160. So we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and remove this cam cover and do these valve stem seals. In this video, I'm going to do the valve stem seals with the head installed on the car. Before you go do major engine work on any engine, I suggest you do a compression test. A compression test will let you know how the bottom end is and if you have any valve issues, badly leaking valves, burnt valves, stuff like that. Since this engine was smoking, I wanted to know my compression test number. That lets me know that the piston rings are in good shape and the cylinder walls are not cracked. If they were, I would probably not have good compression numbers. It would leak off when the piston got to the top. Anyway, the good numbers on a warm to hot engine watt after you disconnect the fuel, disconnect the spark is 156 to 186. I believe my gauge is 10 or 15 psi low. I got 160, 165, 165, 165, 165. So this engine, I believe, is in very good condition according to the compression situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the timing belt loose. Really don't have to align it because I'm going to be changing all that stuff, rolling the crank over while I do this job. I'm going to remove these sensors. I'm going to remove that mount over top of the engine. I'm going to pull the PCV tube. Then I'm going to pull the cam cover off. After I get the cam cover off, I'm going to remove the cams, get them out of the way, and then I'm going to keep all of the lifters in order, and I'm going to do a valve stem seals with the engine and head on. I'm going to move the solid lifters out of the way. I'm going to remove the valve springs, keepers, and caps. Then I'm going to reach down in there with the valve stem seal tool, pull the valve stem seals off of the valve guides, and then put the new ones on. Now, before I take the springs and release the valves, I'm going to lower some rope down through the spark plug hole, after I lower the piston, I'm going to put something in there, roll the engine over by hand, lower the piston. Then I'm going to stuff some rope down in there, about a foot of rope. Then I'm going to roll the piston up. And when I roll the piston up to the highest point that feels comfortable, it's going to have that rope pressing against the bottom of the valves to keep the valves pressed up so that when I release the valves, they won't fall down in the cylinder. And then I'll be able to replace the seals, put them back in, and get the valves reloaded with the tool I have. So I got a couple special tools. I'll show you them here in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and get cracking on this. First thing I do is remove over the engine pipe, anything that's in the way of getting the cam cover off. So I removed over the engine pipe. I removed the support brace that was over there. I'm going to remove this mount here because it's got part of that trap down there. I'm going to release this hose here, take that off. Wow, didn't even have a clamp on that. I'm going to take this fuel line loose here, take this fuel line loose here, move that out of the way, take the timing belt cover off, the front and the side. I'm going to take the tensioner loose from the timing belt. I'm going to take the serpentine belt off. Then I'm going to move this serpentine belt tensioner here because it's going to be in the way. Then I'm going to take the cover off. Then I'm going to take the tensioner loose from the timing belt. Then I'm going to remove the timing belt. And then I'm going to pull all those screws off of the cam cover. Pop that cam cover off, lift the cams out. I got the strut brace removed. Set that over there. I removed over the engine pipe. Set that over there. You take the spark plug cover, remove all the coils, set those out of the way over there. Then remove the timing belt cover. I'm going to do that next. Move this bottle out so I can get the timing belt cover. Then I'm going to pop the serpentine belt loose and remove the serpentine belt. I got this tool I used to take the serpentine belt loose. Pop that off, pull the serpentine belt out of the way. Then I'm going to take the serpentine belt tensioner off. When I pulled the tension off the serpentine belt, I stuck a pin in there to hold that open. Now I can reach down here and knock this belt off. This belt is really shorter than it probably should be, so it's real hard to get off and on. I think it's a 1740. I should have like a 1747 or 1753 on there. Now that the serpentine belt is off, I'm going to pull those two 12mm screws out of this serpentine belt tensioner. I'm going to take the battery loose. It says I'm working around in here. I don't grind nothing out. So all you really have to do is take this negative loose, tuck it aside, cover the terminal so it can't reconnect itself. It's a little easier getting at these tensioner 12mm if this box is out of the way. So I'm going to pull the ECU out, set it aside, and I'm going to unclip this box here. You got a clip here on the side, clip here on the side, 10mm here, and a clip on the back. That'll come up out of the way. Just easier to get to those 12mm. Got the ECU box. Now I get those 12s real easy. Because I'm using an RN engine and timing belt cover with the N style serpentine belt tensioner, I glued a couple of washers on the back of those, so make sure you don't drop those. Because I was doing the compression test, I already pulled the spark plug covers, pulled the coil packs, because this car is COP, coil over plug, pulled all the plugs. That's already done. And as you can see, the compression gauge is still in there. Next, I'm going to pull this bolt out of the timing cover, which is not even in there. Pull the timing cover off. Next, I'm going to take that 10mm loose on the tensioner, take the tension off of the belt, slide the belt off of the cams. I could align it, put the marks where they're supposed to be, but since I'm going to be moving the crank around the whole time I'm doing this process, I'm going to go ahead and just pull it off. I'm not really concerned with timing because I got to do that when I put it all back together. Just for giggles, I'm going to show you the timing mark there. That thing is right there. That tiny little mark is the timing mark. And that mark here is the timing mark on the exhaust cam. Gray one's exhaust, blue one's intake cam. Next, I'm going to use a 12mm, take the tensioner bolt loose, take the timing belt off. Now that I have the tensioner loose, I'm going to go ahead and slide the timing belt off of the cams. I'm going to walk this forward with my finger. That takes the belt loose. Then I could undo it from the cam. If you have wiring connected to these sensors, go ahead and disconnect that. I'm going to disconnect the fuel line from the fuel rail there and from the pressure regulator there on this vehicle and get these fuel lines out of the way. Once you get the charge piping off and you're done with your compression test, it's a good idea to stuff some rags or towels or something in those holes so that nothing falls in there while you're working on the car. I'm going to swing this throttle cable out of the way. I rolled this over, unthreaded it, pull this clip up and out, set it aside, pull this cable out of here, and set it aside so that it's not in the way. Now I can lay this stuff back over here further. I'm going to remove the upper torque mount bracket. It has some 13mm on this engine, and then it's got a 14mm down there on the arm. This side of the top bracket is a 15, this side is the 13, and I have a ground wire down there. I pulled the torque arm off first, got the 14, the 13, and 15. Pulled the bolt out. I pushed the metal bracket back toward the back of the car, and then it slipped up over this. Now I have easy access to these 13s and that 10 there. The bracket over there, tall bolts go on the passenger side, short bolts go on the driver's side. Next, I'm going to take this part of the bracket off the side because it's hiding cam sensor screws, and I need to take that cam sensor loose. This side bracket had 3 13mm on it. I got a fuel line dripping, so I'm going to cover that up with some plastic or something. Stop that from just dripping down there, giving off vapors. Whenever you plug or stuff a hole, you want it to be something that you can see, not going to disappear on you, so you don't accidentally leave it in there. Now I'm going to pull this cam sensor off. I got those 2 bolts there. I think they're T40s. Now that I have the cam sensor off, I can go ahead and pull the 40 bolts out of the cam cover. And I need to pull that ground wire there. So let me go ahead and rip those bolts loose and pop this cam cover off with the special tool. The oil kept dripping past that towel I put in there, so I zip tied a rubber glove on there. I'm breaking loose all these 10mm so I can pull all them. I'm going to have to pull these 2 solenoids because there's a 10mm under that one and that one. Have a rag ready when you pull those. They leak oil. And they have a gasket under them. This gasket stayed. This gasket came off. This cam cover is basically glued down with the anaerobic sealant. I do not think it matters how you break these bolts loose. However, I highly suggest that you don't miss any. Because if you miss one and you think you got them all out and you try to take the cover off and you get blindsided in tunnel vision and try to take the cover off with one of these screws in, you may bend the cover or something. Anyway, I got them all broke loose. Now I'm going to put my power tool on them and pull them all up. Then I'm going to set them in the organizer that I have for them. And then I'm going to break the cam cover loose from the head. 9 across the front, 12 right behind that, 12 right behind that, 12 right behind that, plus the 2 ground wires. So I have all the screws out. Now I'm going to pop this cam cover loose. However, because this has VVT hubs, the cam cover may not come up because these VVT hub screws are in the way. Right at this position, I only have one screw up. I'm going to back that screw out of the VVT hub. The same on this one. That way the cam cover will come up. So I'm going to put an 8mm on those two, back those out. The cams should be fine with the other two screws holding those, so they shouldn't move or adjust. You may want to keep a rag or something up here because these VVT hubs are loaded with oil. So when the VVT hub moves, it'll probably squirt oil up like this intake one did. And you can sop this oil up with some kind of rags or oil eater pads, whatever you got. I'm gonna hit them with some oil eater pads real quick. And I'm gonna also put some oil eater pads under the car in case oil runs down there and tries to get on the floor. Like that spot right there. Decided to lay some oil eater pads on some cardboard and slide it under the car in case some oil spills or drips under the car while I'm working. It'll be easier for me to clean up. Also, if I drop something, it'll be easy for me to just slide that cardboard out and pick up what I drop. So I'm gonna slide that in that far, go back here, see if it's back here, and it is further than I need. So I'll slide this out a little bit. I should be good to go. I might have wanted to break those loose before I took the timing belt off because they were a little snug. And when I pulled them, trying to hold the cam still because it's moving, it was coughing oil out of these holes here. So maybe even wanted to break those loose before I took these sensors off, because I spit oil all the way up on the windshield up here. Now I'm going to back these screws out until they're flush with the back of the cam. Got that screw flush with the back of the cam hub on both sides. Now I'm ready to pop this cam cover loose. And I'm going to use the cam cover head separator to do that. I'm going to mop all this oil up first. That's less oil that's going to drip down somewhere. Then I'm going to set an oil eater pad or two back here to catch oil that may run off. I set the oil eater pad down there over where there's oil, and I dab it with my screwdriver to absorb the oil. So where I dabbed it at, there's no oil. I hit these slots all the way across. What I have here is a Volvo tool. This one didn't come from Volvo. Got it off of Amazon. That's the number there. VOA 1361. Is the tool. They have them on FCP and other places too. This one was about half the price of the one I found on FCP. I just didn't get one for a while because I didn't want to pay that price, but fortunately now's a good time. So you want to do is take this and put it in the spots where you can spread the head apart. This is my storage for all my screws out of my cylinder head. I'm going to set that aside. And if you look in this cylinder head, there's a couple of spots. You got a spot here, a spot here. You take this tool and you put it in that spot. I'm going to have to take this fuel rail harness wire and move it out of the way. And then I'll be able to set this there and pop that open. You go on the back. There's a couple spots on the back where you can put this thing too. You got a spot there, and a spot here behind this hose. So how this tool works is, let me put the light back on. You set the tool down there, you put it right there in between those pry points, and you squeeze the tool and it pops the cover off. I might have to squeeze it with two hands. Let me see if I can set this here so you can watch that happen. Set this in here, pry point, squeeze. Man, I heard it coming loose. Make sure I got all the screws out. Let me pry it here. I think there's a pry point here too. Pry point back here. Ouch! Almost pinched my finger that time. Man, I can hear that thing crackling. I'm gonna take this hose off. Alright, I got that turbo hose loose so I can reach that pry point here. I thought this was going to be magic. Oh, there it goes. You hear that coming loose? Boom. Thing spread it open that time. Popped it open. Let me pull this fuel rail harness and get the front side loose. Got the fuel rail harness out of the way. I think it's out of the way enough. Let me just slide this in here. Pop that open. This fuel injector's in the way right here to get this one. But you know what? I think I got so much of it open that I'm okay to pull the cover off now. They popped it open a lot further than prying. Gosh dang, we call those things I normally use. Oops, dang it, I'm pouring oil somewhere. Those extensions, 3/8 extensions. So now as you can see, I have access to my cams. I'm gonna lift the cams up and out, set them aside, and then you'll see my lifters. Now it should be easy to get the lifters up and out of the way. You want to pick them up from the front, then from the back. So now I'm going to lift the lifters out of the way, and then we come to critical point. Warning, do not proceed without paying close attention to what I'm about to say. I wrestled these cams out because another one of the screws was hitting the bottom of the head, so it's probably best to take 2 of the screws and back them out. The one near the top and the one near the bottom front. Take 2 of those loose, that way it'd be easier to get that cam out of the head. I massaged them out. Now I have access to the lifters. Let me talk about that for a moment. Before you maneuver and lift the cams out, stuff some rags down there because I had oil leak down there on my parts inside the timing belt cover, and you don't want that. Next, it is critical, unless you know how to do a valve job on one of these cars, that you do not mix up these solid lifters. These lifters are solid. They have a different height inside each lifter. These lifters are put in a particular order and size so that the valve closes properly. If you get these mixed up, your valves are not going to close properly. Then you're going to have a mess on your hands. So do not mix these up. I'm going to take out one cylinder at a time and put these in order. If you could mark them, that'd even be better. But since they're covered with oil, I doubt you're going to get them marked. You pull them out with a magnet, set them in order, put them back in the exact valve they came out of, you'll be fine. You get them mixed up, car's probably not going to run if it runs at all, and it's surely not going to run right. Do not mix these up. I'm what I call home alone. Nobody else here but me. I'm going to pull these up and out of here, and I'm going to place this one over number 4 cylinder. I'm going to place this one over number 3 cylinder. Now I have access to the valves and the oil is running down there. I'm going to do the same for those two when I pull those two out. But I'm only going to do 2 at a time. You can actually do 1 at a time if you want to be extra careful. That is the top of the valve. It's got the valve spring top there. It's got keepers under that. I got a special tool to get those valves out of there. However, it is now 7 o'clock p.m. That's the time I'm deciding to shut this down. I pulled this one out first because it will let oil go down there and quit running out the front of the head. I got oil running out the back of the head. I need to get a rag back there as well. Fortunate for me, before I left, I decided to poke around down here, and I see that my glove for my fuel is full. So I'm going to plug this line back over there, and I'm going to hook this fuel line back up. I don't know why this fuel is siphoning out of the tank into this fuel rail, but it is. So let me go ahead and do that before I leave. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.